Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our eAcademy session today on analytics and graphs. My name is Ryan. For those of you who are not familiar with me or have not had a webinar with me before in the past. So just a little introduction about myself since, like I said, I'm probably a new face to a lot of you. So I actually live in Seoul, South Korea, or technically just outside of Seoul. So it's actually 7 a.m. The sun has not quite crept over the Korean hills yet, but it will in a little bit. So yeah, I basically here in Asia, I teach accordance, especially at seminaries or colleges, and then also work on adding new features and resources for Asian users, and then also just help out with tech support and sales as well. So a little bit about myself and what I do and with accordance, and also just to just as maybe just a word of encouragement to you all who are accordance users, probably most of you back in the US. Accordance is actually used really, I think I've seen it's used for the sake of missions, I think, which is a very exciting thing. And so I've been able to sit with Chinese pastors who are or Chinese seminary students who are studying and then planning on going back to mainland China to help serve the church there. And it's under obviously restriction, who are using accordance for their ministries, and or pastors in the Philippines who are so thankful that they have an opportunity to learn the Bible and have a software that's affordable for them, and they can on a very limited income are able to use the program. So and then even professors and seminary professors in places like Japan that are, very few Christians in Japan, but professors there using accordance to teach their students the Bible. Or even a few months ago, I actually did a Zoom session with a group of like a Hebrew study group in Malaysia, actually, a group of Malaysians that are learning Hebrew and are using accordance for that. So it's very exciting to see how God is using accordance all around the world, and especially here in Asia. So, and I should say one other thing before I get started. Some are probably wondering why a white-faced guy is living in Seoul, South Korea. So some of you may be familiar with the Hebrew idea that if you say something 3 times, then it's extra emphasis. So all of us who use accordance are blessed to be able to use accordance to study the Bible and to use it to teach and to preach. So I've been blessed that way, like you have. I've received a second blessing, I guess you could say, from being able to work for accordance and to be able to spread God's word that way. And so that's been a great blessing. And then my third and greatest blessing was also met my wife through accordance, indirectly through accordance, but I was in Asia doing training here on a business trip with Rick Mansfield, who some of you may know from webinars and social media and such. And so during a conference here in Korea that I was at, then I met my wife. So that's why I moved out here to Seoul and teach accordance here. So this was a little bit of introduction. You probably didn't expect that, but just to explain a little bit more about myself, and then also, excuse me, besides teaching accordance here, then I also am a seminary student here in Seoul, South Korea, and also assistant pastor at a English congregation here, so English-speaking congregation. So just a little bit about what I'm doing, and hopefully gives you a picture too of what how God is using accordance all around the world. And God promised that the knowledge of the Lord would cover the earth as the waters cover the sea, and that's definitely happening here in Asia. So so with that, let's go ahead and get started then. I don't think there's any other announcements to make. Let me know, Linda, if there is something else, but I'll go ahead and turn my camera off, and we'll get started then. So okay, so today, we're talking about accordance, analytics, and graphics. And there is a handout that you should have in your, if you look down near the bottom of your GoToWebinar control panel, there's a handout section there. And if I pull this over here from my other screen, there's a PDF file here that you see. And So this is what you should have once you download that handout. And it covers what we'll be going through today and what we'll be discussing. So, and basically we're going to go through all the different type of analytics and graphs that you can use in accordance when you're searching your Bible texts. So, okay, let's see here. It looks like there's a few comments of people said they don't see the handout there. Yeah, let me know, Linda and Mark, if you see it there. It should be there.
Yeah, I see it in the handout section. It should be right above the chat section and underneath the polls section, I would think, in that GoToWebinar control panel. A lot of people are saying they do see it, so hopefully it's there. Let us know if you maybe just overlooked it.
Okay, alrighty, thank you, Mark. Okay, so yeah, let's go ahead and we'll start then with the going through the handout here. So this eAcademy session is going to cover how to best utilize Accordance's powerful suite of analytics tools. So basically, like I said, we'll be going through the different analytics here. And one thing I put at the top there, just as a reminder in bold, the gear icon, we're going to be using that a lot to kind of customize our graphs and our charts as we go through that. So, and I'll remind you how you can open that by using either the display menu there, or also by using the keyboard shortcuts command T or a control T on a window. So, but just at the top there to remind you. So let's talk first then about, we'll talk about first about the hits graph here. So, so just to start at the very beginning, we have our search text, right? And then right here, we have where we enter our search, basically our search field, if you will. So in most of our searches today, we'll do in English. We will do a few in Greek and Hebrew as well, but we'll do mostly English so everybody can follow along hopefully well. So we have our verse search right here, right? But then we also have a flex search, and then we have a word search. So our analytics is only when you do word or flex searches, right? So let's go ahead and start with just a basic word search here. And I'm just going to search for the word grace in here. So we'll start with that. And again, some of these things you may already be familiar with, but once you do a word search like this, you look to the right and you'll see right here how many times that word is found, right, in your ESV Bible here. So that's the number of hits, what we call search hits. And then to the left here is actually the number of verses that those search hits are in. So there's more hits than there are verses, because there may be a few examples where the word grace is found in, grace is found multiple times in the same verse. So, so that's why the difference for that. So all of our analytics are right here on this pie chart icon. So once you search for grace and then look to the right, then you'll see our pie chart here, and you can click on that, and then this is where we see all the different analytics here. So this is everything we'll be going through today. Now the default analytics here, we'll talk about that at the end. We'll come back to that. So first we're going to start with the hits graph here. Let me go and open that up. So if we pull this over here, let me explain some aspects of the hits graph here. So basically and I put in the outline there, the hits graph displays the density of hits across the search range. So it's used to identify overall trends. So it doesn't give you a lot of the details as far as grammatical details of the words or Strong's numbers or things like that. That's not the main purpose in the beginning there. Instead, it's mainly focused on giving you like a general picture there. So, okay, and one thing you'll notice as well as I hover over any of the aspects of the graph here, or any of the search hits, then down here in the instant details, let me make this a bit larger here, you'll kind of see where exactly where that hit is found, that search hit there. So Jeremiah 31:2 is there, Psalms 86:6. Here's basically all the times the word grace is found, right? And it lays out everywhere here. Excuse me. So, and then a couple of things you may need to notice. So we have the list of the whole Bible here, right? Then here's your number of hits, right? On the left side here, and then at the top here we have hits per 1,000 words. So it's not it's not just the straight number of hits, but instead it's hits per 1,000 words. So it kind of gives you more the frequency than the sheer numbers. We'll look at a few other things later on with graphs that will show that. So show just the total number, but we can adjust this as well, and we will at different times as we go through the searches and things like that today. But if you general rule of thumb is you're searching a larger portion of scripture, then this is going to be higher up, and then if you're searching less, then you want to kind of go a little lower down so that you can see all the graphs easier. So basically, kind of if you're searching for, inside of just one book of the Bible, which we'll do and things like that, then you want to shift it down a little bit. So, so that's kind of the general, here, this is general information. And then of course we have the word grace right here, which is what we searched for, right? So let's tweak this search a little bit then. We'll kind of start diving in and doing some studies here, besides just the nuts and bolts. So let's say we want to search for the word grace, and we want to find it in all of Paul's epistles, maybe. We have grace here that's found in the Old Testament, and then mainly in the New Testament, as you can see here. But let's say we want to search, tweak this a little bit. So just to the right there, where you see, so first we have this pie chart, right? That's where we get all our charts and analytics. But then we also have a plus symbol right here too. And this is where you're going to create your search range. So if you don't want to search the entire Bible, and maybe you just want to search a portion, we'll go and we'll click on that. And so first it tells you range is all text. So that's basically means we're searching the entire Bible, right? Or, if you're searching the Greek New Testament, then you're searching the entire Greek New Testament. Or the Hebrew Bible, then you're searching the entire Hebrew Bible. So right now we're in the ESV, so we're searching the entire ESV Bible here. Okay, so we're going to click on this if we want to change the range here. And I actually have some preset ranges here. You may not have them in your accordance there. So I already have one for Pauline epistles, but I'll go ahead and we'll create a new one. That way we can all follow along and create a search range together. So let me go down here to the bottom of my list here. And at the very bottom of your list, you should see where you can define range. So I'm going to click on that. Okay, looks like there's a few comments before we go further about my drop-down menus are not showing. So that may be a limitation there. I think I'm just showing the window. Let me tweak that a little bit, and we'll show my entire screen there. You will see my icons at the bottom there. So sorry about that, but that way I think if I do this, I think you should be able to see my my menus as well when I choose those. So okay, yep, looks like that's better, and you should be able to see my little circle here as well. So
yeah, it's working now. Looks great.
Okay, great. Okay, so let me just back up real quickly then. So right here is our analytics and graphs menu we'll be using today, and then this is our range menu here. Okay, so if we go down to the very bottom, and we'll click on define range here. So again, we want to look for grace just where it's found in Paul's epistles, not in not throughout the entire Bible. So I'm going to click on the new here to create a new search range. And this is, something as you use Accordance, you'll be doing this all the time. So I'm always creating search ranges and deleting search ranges for my seminary studies or preaching and teaching. So So let's do it here. And so the name of the search range can be anything. It doesn't have to be, the books of the Bible or something like that. So we can change this to the name. We'll just say, let's just call it, we'll just call it Paul's writings, let's say. Right, so the name of it can be anything there. Now the definition needs to be exactly the books we're searching. So, so what we'll do then is, so we'll put Paul's writings are what? They're Romans to Philemon, right? So Romans to Philemon. And the reason why they're ordered that way is actually because they're kind of ordered by their length, actually. So Romans is the longest of Paul's epistles, and then Philemon is the shortest. That's why they're ordered that way in our New Testament. But so the definition is Romans to Philemon. That's the range that we want to search. And the name of our search range is called Paul's writings. So once we have that in there, we'll click verify, and verify basically just checks to make sure that it's a legitimate search range. So we'll do that. And you notice it's up here at the top now, that search range. So we'll click on update. And then you see that now it's our search range. So I'll go ahead and close this here. And we'll go ahead and do the search again. Okay, so you obviously notice that it changed, right, quite a bit, our graph here. So now we're searching just Paul's writings, so everything is a lot more stronger, right, and larger. So Romans down here is at the beginning, and then Philemon is at the end, right? So maybe we can tweak this a little bit so it's not quite so blocky there. But one thing you'll notice, right, here we have Romans is kind of the largest spike there in mentioning grace. That's kind of maybe what we would expect. But also here in 2 Corinthians as well, he mentions grace quite a bit, which is kind of interesting. We'll talk about that later. And then, of course, here in his other epistles, 1 Corinthians doesn't really talk about grace very much, maybe like one example there. So not very graceful towards the Corinthians, at least in the first epistle there. So, okay, and then let's do one more aspect of this hits graph here. So one thing that's really cool about the hits graph is that you can use this keep function right up here, and then you can kind of basically compare different searches. So let's say we want to do some sort of study of Paul's writings here and see where he uses different theological terms. So I'm going to erase grace here. That sounds kind of bad, erase grace, but so what we'll do is we'll put in the word justify here. So where does Paul talk about justification, let's say? So we'll put that in there. Now what I'm gonna do is, because I want to have, I want all of these terms here, if you can see those, right? That's shows up there in our suggested search terms. There's justification, there's justified, there's justifier, justifies, justify, right? So all these are kind of related words, right? But I want to see all of these in my search. I don't want to see just, one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the asterisk, which is basically our wildcard symbol. And basically what that means is that I'm going to search for justif, right? Justify or justif, I guess. And then the asterisk means anything else can come after that. So that way we'll get all those different forms of justified, justification, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay, so let's do that. So we'll do the search here. And we can take a look here and see we have justified, justified, justifier, justify there, justifies, justification. So all the different words there, right? Now, and we can see our hits graph here. We have Romans, right? In Romans, he talks about justification a good bit. Galatians, obviously, as well. And then also one here in Titus as well. Now, let's do some comparisons then. So what we're going to do is I'm going to click on the keep button right here. So right up here where it says keep. And this will allow us to basically compare different graphs together. So I'm going to click on that. And then it's going to give me a little message basically saying plots will not be kept if the search text or search range is changed. And basically what that means is if I change my search range, and away from just Paul's writings, then I won't be able to use that keep function. It's going to erase what I have so far. So we're gonna keep our range the way it is there. So okay, so now let's search for another word here. Maybe we want to look at something like sanctification. Where does Paul talk about sanctification? So here we'll do S-A-N-C-T-I, and then we'll do, so here we have all our different words here: sanctification, sanctified, sanctify, 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 right? So we'll use the asterisk again there, and we'll do the search. And now you notice here, down here in orange, we have sanctify here. So we see he uses it in Romans, and then he uses it in 1 Corinthians, which is interesting, right? Justification, not so much, or grace, not so much. But sanctification, he talks more about it there. And then also in the pastoral epistles down here as well. So that's interesting. And then let's do one more. We'll click on the keep again one more time. And then maybe we'll look at something like adoption, let's say. So where does Paul talk about adoption? So we'll do again the same thing, A-D-O-P-T, and then we'll use the asterisk again, so that way we get both adoption and adopted. And we'll do the search, and then here we get in yellow at the bottom here, we have adoption in Romans, and then adoption in Galatians, and then one time in Ephesians too. So this just kind of gives us a little bit of a comparison, right? What kind of theological words does Paul use in his different books, right? Different writings. Now let's talk about customizing this graph a little bit, because yours may look a little bit different than mine. So right here, this is the gear icon that I talked about, or I listed at the beginning there. So this gear icon is in all of our analytics and our lists and our graphs. So this is always where you can click on to customize what you see in your graphs. So you can always click on it right here and get these options. So I can change how this displays a little bit. So right now I have it set to areas, but if I want, I could go to bars if I want and look at it that way. I could choose lines and customize it like that. Usually I tend to stick with the areas, but you can obviously choose these if you want instead. Now this is very helpful right here where it says superimpose. So what you may have it set up to overlay like this, which of course if you want to look at it that way, it's totally fine. But for me it's easier to use the stack. So what I'll do is I'll click here and then I'll choose stack for that. That way I can kind of compare, especially with the hits graph like this, I can compare everything a lot easier. So, and then there's also other options here, like if you don't want to see the grid, you can turn that off. And then also you can use a different, instead of a white background, you can use the black background here too. So now to see more of these options here, the last in this little menu here is where it says customize display. And this is where we get if you hit Command T or Control T while you're inside of this analytics zone here, then it will also come up. So if I hit Command T like that on a Mac, then it opens up here. Now a lot of these options here are the same as what we saw in the menu there, but there are a few different things you can change. And the nice thing is that you can at the bottom here, there's an option for use as default. So basically I can set how I want my hits graph to look, and then I can just click on use as default, and then every time I go back and look at my hits graph, it will show that how I've set it up. So let's say words per hit, we can set a set number if we always want to do that. If we want to always stack our graphs like that, we can. I always choose that as my default. The colors here, maybe you want to change these a little bit. I'm actually a bit colorblind, so the red and the orange, sometimes they kind of blend together for me. So maybe let's say our second superimposed graph, I want that to be green instead. So maybe the red, the green, and yellow kind of will differentiate a bit better for me that way. So all the colors you can kind of tweak and change there too. And then once you set all that up how you want it, then just click on Use as Default. And you sure you want to save these graph window settings as the default for the ESV here. So this is important to know. It's not just going to be set, the graphs for, every time I do the hits graph, but particularly for the ESV here. So click on Save and click OK. And now you notice that my second graph here is in green. So, okay, so that's kind of introducing you there to the hits graph and also the gear icon too, that we're going to use quite a bit for customizing your graphs. Okay, it looks like most of the questions are answered by Mark. Thank you. So if there's no other questions, then we'll go on to the analysis graph here and talk about that one. So let me close the hits graph here. Okay, so the analysis graph, well, let me do a search and then I'll kind of explain it to you. So I'm going to get rid of adopt here. And our range, we'll actually close this down. And once I close that range, then I'm just back to searching the entire Bible again. So I'm no longer just searching Paul's writings, but instead I'm searching the entire Bible. So what we'll do is we'll search for the word love here and see where love is found throughout the Bible. And then we'll go back to our pie chart here, our analytics menu here, and we'll go down and we'll look at our analysis graph here. Okay, so a few things about the analysis graph here that you may notice. Now, this is obviously the same, right, as far as how the chart is, as far as the books of the Bible here, and then the hits as well. So hits per so many words, right? Maybe we can expand this a little bit here. Turn it back up to hits per 1,000 words here. So we have that, but then also over here, we can tweak this a little bit. So we have, we can look at it by word, but then we can also look at it by key number as well. So let's do that. And so now, instead of seeing just love, with the small L at the beginning, and then also with the capital L, now we can actually see all the key numbers as well. So maybe we'll expand this a little bit more so it's a bit easier to see. So right here at the top, right, we have chesed, the Hebrew word, and the key number that goes with it. We have agape here, ahev here, also for love, and also another word for love in Hebrew as well. So chesed is more of the steadfast love, covenant love idea, whereas ahev is more of a general love term. But and then we have a few more examples here, agapao here as well, and so we can look at all those. Now, one thing you can do with the analysis graph that you can't do with the hits graph, obviously you can look at the difference here between word and key number, right, like we did. But you can also get rid of some of your examples here are key numbers. Let's say I don't want to look at all these. Maybe I only want to see the main words that are used. So, and some of these are kind of very similar, like agapao and agape, right? Agapao is just the verb form, right? And agape is the noun form, right? So maybe if we want to get rid of some of these lesser forms, we just want to see our main words for love there, I can click on any of these and get rid of it. So you notice there's a little X, right, when I hover over, and the X means once I click on it, then it's going to get rid of it. So, okay, so we have that there. Now, again, just like as we're going to do with all of these graphs here, we can always customize it. Click on the gear icon here, and we can choose and tweak how it looks. Again, I have mine set to the stack as I compare these different forms here, different key numbers. We can go to our customized display and take a closer look. And most of this, again, is just the same as it was in the hits graph, so not a whole lot of differences there. We can set our analysis class to, if we want the key number to be by default, then we can change that. So we have that there. Now, so this is just for searching an English text, right? A Strong's tagged English text. So that's why we have the Strong's numbers here, because it's the ESV tagged with Strong's numbers. But let's say we want to search, do a Greek search, and we'll see even more grammatical information and things like that in the analysis graph if we do a Greek or Hebrew search. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to close this down here. I'm just going to, instead of closing the ESV, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up a new tab with the Greek Bible. So I'm going to click on the plus symbol here. And I'm going to go here to my Greek text, to my Greek New Testament, and open that up. Okay, so we have our Greek New Testament open now. And what we'll do is we're going to change this from a verse search to a word search here. And we're going to search for, and I put it in the outline there, we're going to search for agapao here, so the verb form to love. So we'll start typing that in. And if I start typing in here, right, alpha, gamma, alpha, pi here, we have aga, and then it gives me the different options here. So we have agapao to love, agape, love, and then agapetos, beloved. So if you, one little helpful note, if you're having trouble and you're typing in, Greek words or Hebrew words, and for searching, but you don't remember or don't know which key to hit on your keyboard, you can always use the window, go to the window menu and go to characters here. So again, window menu and then characters here. And then you can see here we have Helena here for Greek. So I can always choose any of these here. I can click on them to choose that letter. But also when I hover over the Greek letter, it tells me down there, right down here, in the lower left corner, it tells me which key to hit on my keyboard that will, for that particular Greek letter. So it's a little help there. And then also we have it for Hebrew too. So Yehudit, we'll explain it for Hebrew. Greek is pretty intuitive when typing in Greek. A is alpha, G is gamma, etc. Kind of the similar sounds. Hebrew is a bit more trickier, so using this can be very helpful for that. Okay, so we'll put agapao here, and we'll do the search here. So here we have agapao, and we searched for, by default, accordance when it searches, it does a Greek search. It basically, we're searching for the lexical form, or lexeme, and then we display all the inflected forms below. So agapao, if you look for agapao in the Greek New Testament, you actually won't find it anywhere, because that's basically just the form of the word when you look it up in a lexicon or a Greek dictionary. So that's what we call the lexical form or the lexeme. And then what we have displayed below, these are all the inflected forms of the word here. So a good example in English would be something like, you have run, and then you have running, runs, ran, all the different inflected forms of run. So, so that's how it works for Greek as well. And so we're searching for the lexical form, and then we see all the inflected forms below. So what we'll do is here we'll go back to our analysis graph now that we've done our search. So we'll click here on the pie chart, and we'll go down here to our analysis graph. So one thing you notice with the analysis graph here, if I expand this a little bit, is now instead of what we did before with English, we had words, right, and we had key numbers. Now, if we go up to this menu up here, we have inflected. So this shows me all the inflected forms of agapao and where they're found here. And this lists them at the bottom, right? So agapate is at the top, agapon is here, agapa, etc., etc. So, and then we have here, we can change this. So maybe we don't want to see inflected. We could go to lexical, but of course that's just going to be just the one, right? Agapao here, whether it's found in the New Testament. We can look at something like gender and see what genders are used for agapao. We see here it's the masculine and also the feminine as well. And so everything here, I mean, any of these we can look at closer, right? What are the moods? Maybe we want to see, okay, where is agapao, to love? Where is it used in the indicative? Where is it used as a participle here? Or maybe down here as an imperative. So all these different ways we can look at and analyze our search here. Syntax as well. If you have the syntax, if you purchase the syntax and you have it installed, then you can also look at to see, okay, well, how is the word agapao? How is it being used in the sentence then? And we can see here at the top, most of the time it's used as a predicate there. So all these different options here you can look at. So searching with Greek and Hebrew in the analysis graph is quite a bit more, gives you lots of different information, and it allows you to analyze things a lot more than the hits graph, right? So if you kind of want to break it down, the hits graph is helpful for searching for multiple things using that keep option, right? And then the analysis graph kind of allows you to dig deeper into your search. And as before, if we ever want to change how this graph looks, we can always go back here to customize display and change these things here as well. So, okay, so let me go. We'll do one more search here in the analysis graph before we start talking about some of the other options. One thing I did put on the outline, let me not forget it, is anywhere's on the graph as well. You can double click on it and you can go to that particular location. So maybe if you want to see where any of these particular inflected forms are used, like agapate there, if I double click on it here in the graph, then it takes me directly to that spot there. So it's a very, I mean, besides, you know, obviously having all this information here that you can look at graphically, it also allows you then to kind of quickly go to, right? Maybe you just want to see where agapone is used, and so it allows you to quickly go to those places and find those. Okay. So let's do one more search here. With the analysis graph, and we're going to do this in English. We'll go back to the English. We could do this in Hebrew, but English I think is easier for everybody to follow. So we'll do it that way. And you may have seen maybe some of our other accordance teachers use this search before, but I think it serves as a really good example of the analysis graph and how helpful it is. So what we're going to do is we're going to set a search range. I'm going to click on the plus symbol here, and right now the range is all text. I'm going to click on that, and we're going to use, we're going to go to Psalms as our search range. So I'll just create a new one again. We'll just do it as a practice together. So I'm going to click on new range here, and we'll just call it Book of Psalms. Our range here, our definition, we just want the Psalms, so we'll put that in there. And we'll click on verify here to check to make sure it checks the definition to make sure it's a legitimate search range. And then we'll click on update here. Okay, so now we're searching just the Psalms. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to basically search for the different names for God in the book of Psalms. So to do that, what we're going to use is we're going to use the parentheses, because we're searching for a list of words. So we're going to put everything in a parentheses, and I laid it out there in the handout, so you can look at that or copy and paste it into your accordance. But so we'll also use the equal sign. So the equal sign basically means I want to search for this exact spelling. So we'll search for something like God, gods, whoops, I put the equal sign there. And gods basically gives us the gives us the possessive form, right? So God's love or God's justice or anything like that. And we'll also do Lord as well. Lord, excuse me, Lord's here. And then we'll also use the capital too. So capital L-O-R-D, and then capital L-O-R-D again. And then we'll say close it with the parentheses there. So again, the parentheses, we're using it because we're searching for a list of words, and then the equal sign for that exact spelling. Now, for the English Bible, the reason why we're including these two different Lord there is because in the English Bible, Lord with the lowercase is the word Adonai, and then with all capital L, capital O, capital R, capital D, that is the covenant name of God, Yahweh. So interestingly, of course, if you read Hebrew or with Jewish scholars and things like that, they never pronounce Yahweh. God's name is too holy to speak it, and so they'll just say Adonai. Even when they get to the part where it says Yahweh, they just read it as Adonai for this form here. But in the English, we kind of differentiate, not by the word we use, but by basically how it's spelled. So with the lowercase is Adonai, and then the uppercase is Yahweh. So, and of course, Adonai can also, Adonai can also sometimes not be God. Sometimes it just means sir or something like that as well. So, okay, so we'll go and do the search here. So now that we've done the search, we look to the right here, and we have 1,224 hits. And we're going to click on that, and we're going to go back to our analysis graph here. Now, if I do it by word, it's not super helpful because we just have Lord and we just have God, right? So let's change this to key number here. And so now what we get here is basically a list to see what names for God are used throughout the Psalms. So, and maybe some of these lesser forms, maybe we want to, again, get rid of some of the lesser forms and just see the main patterns here. So I'm going to click on some of these at the bottom and get rid of these. We'll get rid of that one there. This one here as well. So we're just going to look at general patterns here. Okay, so we have here Yahweh, Elohim, and then Adonai. So the interesting thing about this search is we can see, so if you remember, the Psalms are basically separated into 5 different books. So the first book goes to around chapter 42, I think, around there. And the second one goes to around book 72, I think, somewhere's in there, and so on. So interestingly, we see here in book 1, Yahweh is used quite a bit, right? And then in book 2, it actually shifts, and then Elohim is used more. And oftentimes Elohim will be combined with Adonai. So it'll say Lord God, right? So that you can kind of see how these kind of correspond with each other. And then once we get in here to books 3, 4, and 5 at the end, then it goes back and uses Elohim a bit more. So now, of course, what that means as far as the authors that were writing or how the book was edited together and how the Psalms were placed together, that's for you can research that and study that more. But it kind of gives you a picture, right, of to see how the different names of God are used in the different books. So maybe some people will speculate that Ezra may have put together the book of Psalms, and maybe he did it. Maybe what names of God were used. Maybe that was one of the factors in how he organized it. So I don't know that for sure, but it's something you could study and look at once you find the general patterns like that. So okay, so hopefully that gives you a bit of a picture there. I did see one person had a question about the difference again between the hits graph and the analysis. So again, the analysis here allows you to go basically deeper into your search to see how the word is used, to see the key number, if you're searching in Greek or Hebrew, to see all the inflected forms, the lexical form, how the moods, the all the different aspects of the grammar, basically, right? Versus the hits graph that we did in the beginning is really just showing you just that word and just how many times it's found throughout the Bible, right? And then also allows you to combine different searches together. So the hits graph is very straightforward and allows you to combine different search graphs, right? And then the analysis graph allows you to dig deeper into the grammar of the search that you've done. So maybe that will help a little bit there, explain the difference between the two. Okay, so let's move along here. We're going to talk next about the the bar chart and the pie chart here. So I'm going to close this down here, and basically, if we do another search here, we'll go back to our grace search again, like we did in the beginning here. Whoops, looks like my range is still turned on to the Book of Psalms, so let's turn that off. And we'll search for grace here. Okay, so again, we'll click back here on the right and go back to our analytics menu here. So we did the hits graph, we talked about the analysis graph. Now analysis, we'll come back to that one in a minute. Just skipping over for a second, because we'll look at the bar chart and pie chart together first. Okay, so let's look at the pie chart here. So so the pie chart basically, it gives us, instead of spreading out our search hits and seeing where they're used across the Bible, like the hits graph or analysis graph, now the pie chart basically gives us, kind of splits up the different forms that are used and puts them into a nice pie chart or bar chart for us. So for this case, if I want to analyze this a bit more, if again, we look back up in the upper right corner here, we still have that gear icon where we can customize how our pie charts look. And then we still have our little menu here for word or key number. So we have grace here, right? We have grace with a small g and grace with a large g. It kind of tells me what percentage is used throughout the Bible. This is not super helpful because it's just the regular difference between capital and small. But if we click here in the menu and we go to key number, this will kind of give us a little bit more information. So here we can kind of see that, and this is just a search for grace across the entire Bible, Old and New Testaments. We can see here 95% of the time it's actually charis, so in the New Testament, and only a small percentage of the time is in the Old Testament here, chen in Hebrew. So let's say if we want to maybe dig in this a little deeper, all I have to do is just click where basically here where it says charis, right? Click once. And then it's going to give me a little more information about how charis is used here. Okay, so now we're just looking at charis, the Greek word charis for grace. And now we can actually see, okay, well, how is this, word translated in ESV? So charis, 66% of the time it's translated as grace. And then 13% it's grace with a capital G. But then also it can be translated as favor, gracious, thanks, thank, benefit, gift, thankfulness. And then there's also a few other examples here. Again, we can always look down here in the instant details and see what those ones are. So grateful and joy. So you see the word charis can actually, it can mean many different nuances and different things depending on the context, right? So the context is always what determines what a word means. So, and if I want to look at any of these particular usages a bit more, what I can do is, if I just hold down the Shift key, let's say we want to find, well, here charis is used as gift. Well, that's interesting. Well, where is that in the New Testament? So I'll just hold down my Shift key. So hold down that Shift key, and then I'll click there. And then you notice right here, it basically did open a new tab and search for that key number. just when it's translated as gift. So search for that Greek word just when it's translated as gift. So we have the two examples here are Romans 4:4. Now to the one who works, his wages are not counted as a gift, but as his due. So there, charis, or the word that we normally think of as grace, is translated as gift. And then 1 Corinthians 16:3 here. When I arrive, I will send those to whom you credit by letter to carry your gift to Jerusalem. So oftentimes, the word grace or charis in the New Testament, oftentimes it includes the idea of gift. Even like spiritual gifts are come from that same root there. And so there's kind of a connection there between a gift that you receive as a grace, kind of, is a good way to understand it. So we can look at and see all these different usages here. And again, if we just hold down the Shift key, then you can click and see where that particular usage is found. I like the word benefit here. It's translated from charis. Okay, now again, we can always go back here up to our gear icon again. We'll click on that. And we can go here to customize display. And now again, we can tweak this a little bit. So maybe our default, we don't want to look at the word. Maybe our default, we want it to look at the key number. And then where we see the count, you can show it on the left or the right or the none. Maybe now count as percentage. Maybe you don't want to see the percentage. Maybe you just want to see the sheer number of hits. So we could uncheck that. We can use a black background if we want. And then our colors we can tweak as well. So if we click OK and change this a little bit, now we're just looking at the sheer numbers here. Let's go back a little bit, and we'll see here. So 124 times for charis, then the 6 times here for chen. Usually, I find the percentage a bit easier, and if you always want to tweak that, you can just click on the gear and go back to count as percentage as well and look at that. So this is actually a nice way to actually compare translations, and we'll do that in just a second. But one thing a lot of times people will ask as well is how do I, let's say this chart here, where you saw all the different ways that charis is translated, right, in the ESV, how do I stick that like in a PowerPoint presentation or something like that? And the easy way to do that is just right click on the graph and then just choose copy picture. So again, just right click and then copy picture, and then you can paste that into like a PowerPoint presentation or Keynote or anything like that. Okay, so let's do a little bit of, we'll do some comparison with translations, and for that, we're actually going to use a bar chart instead. So I'm going to close this down here and close this one down as well. So we looked at grace where it's found right in the ESV, and we'll just go back to our, we'll go to a bar chart this time and look at that. And again, similar to the pie chart, the only difference is it's listing it or giving it as bars basically instead of as entire pie chart. So what we'll do is here, I'll change this over to key number again, and we'll click on that gear icon, and we'll let's see if we can set it back to percentage here. We'll click on that, and here we see listed out how it's translated. So I should correct what I said earlier. So the bar chart, it's not percentage, it's just by the sheer numbers of each usage of that word. Now, let's say we want to maybe compare some translations then that way and see how do other translations, how do they translate the word charis. So what we'll do is, I'm going to click on the little plus symbol here, and we'll open up another translation here. Let's say we want to look at something like the NRSV. So we'll do the same thing. We'll search for grace. And then again, now that we've done our search, we'll click on the analytics here, the analytics menu. We'll go down here to a bar chart, open that up. And we'll click here on charis. And then we can see how it's translated. So I do a comparison here. So make some more space here. So you can kind of see there's a few ways that charis is translated that's different in the NRSV. So one time it's translated as approval or blessing or goodwill even. So you can see that the NRSV translates it a little bit differently than the ESV does, right? This word. And so we can always just do the shift click again. Maybe we want to see where's that found, approval. And it's here actually in 1 Peter 2:20. If you endure when you are beaten, what credit is that? But if you endure when you do right and suffer for it, you have God's approval or God's charis. So this is a way too that it's very helpful that you can analyze and compare translations. I'm curious now. This is not on the outline. I'm just curious to see how the ESV translates it. Okay, so they translate as gracious. So ESV, this is a gracious thing in the sight of God when you suffer for doing good. So interesting. Interesting to see how different translators try to bring the nuance of the context and the word across there. So again, I could do another translation and do another comparison that way. And then any of these, again, you can just right click, copy the picture, and then you could on your PPT slides or whatever as you're teaching in your Bible study or in a Sunday school class, you could do this comparison and see how the word is translated in different translations here. Okay. So that's a little bit about the pie chart and the bar chart there. And so let's go on to analysis next. And we'll look at that. So we close down the NRSV here. So we're going to go back and we're going to do our love search again, as it should be listed in the outline there. So I'll search for love, and we'll look at that across the Bible here. We're going to go back to our analytics. So repeat again. So click here and look down, and we'll go to our analysis this time. So we've done the hits graph. We looked at the analysis graph, the bar chart, and the pie chart. And now let's look at analysis here. Okay, so analysis is quite a bit different, obviously, as you kind of can tell right away. So it's not listing the words out in your search as across the graph or in a chart or anything like that. Instead, it's just listing it directly, right? But this actually also has a number of benefits as well, unique benefits to it, to using the analysis here. A couple of things. So right here where it says countdown, you can click on that and you can change that. So right now I have mine, how it lists the word basically is from the most common word to the least common. So it has love 541 times there, and then love just with the capital L 11 times in the ESV. But we could count up and we could change that. If I want the word that's found the least amount of times first, we could list that instead, or we could just do alphabetical too. Of course, in this case, it's not going to be any different since it's both with the L, right? Love. But let's tweak this a little bit more. Maybe, and one thing you notice as well is that all the particular Greek and Hebrew words and corresponding key numbers are found below as well. So oftentimes, if you're doing a search in English like this, you may want to maybe organize these a bit more. So again, we'll just go back to our gear icon here. Let me actually make this a bit larger too. And you can see here, so there's show key numbers. So if you don't have that turned on, you can tweak that on or off to look at all the different key numbers and the corresponding Greek and Hebrew there. You can sort by key number if you want to do it that way. And so in this case, instead of sorting it by low, now it's just sorting it by the key number. And because I have it count down, right, it's still showing me that. With that particular order, the most common at the top and then lower and lower as we go down. So we have that. And then we also have a few other options here. You can sort it by frequency, uniqueness, importance, etc. Now, customize display, again, the same option as we had before. One thing that may be helpful for you to set is the secondary sort right here. So the main sort, you have it set to, alphabetical or count down or count up, but the secondary sort is not. You can't change it right there on the analysis page. So the secondary sort, you may want to tweak that. Usually, again, I'll use count down for that. So that way, the words that are found below here, basically right here, this is your secondary sort, your secondary list. I usually change that to count down as well. That way, it's a bit more organized. And you can do that right here. Okay, again, the gear icon and then customize display. And right here, secondary sort. Now, so this is for searching in English here, right? And looking at all the key numbers. But let's do this. And again, just like it was for the analysis graph, searching in Greek and Hebrew is going to give you more information in the analysis than just an English search will, since we have all the different grammatical forms, right? So let me close this down here, and I'll click on the new tab button here, and we'll open up a Hebrew Bible. And so I'll open that up here, Biblia Hebraica. So let's try a tag search here. So right now we're searching by verses, but I'm going to change this to words here. And let me we'll open up the English in parallel too, just so everybody can follow along, okay? So we have a word search here, and we're going to search for a particular tagging. So to do that, I'm going to go up here to the search menu. And this is basically where you would search for, the different Hebrew verbs or Hebrew nouns or adjectives, all the different aspects of Hebrew grammar. So you click on search menu up here, go to enter tag, and we'll choose verb here. So again, make sure that you're in a word search, searching by words. Go to search, enter tag, and then verb here. Okay, so let's say we want to do something like, maybe we want to search, for all the imperatives in the Hebrew Bible. So every time a command is given in the Hebrew Bible, maybe we want to search for that. So what we'll do is here, and I have it on your outline there, under aspect, click on that, and then we'll choose imperative here. So we'll choose imperative from the aspect, click OK. And then now once we perform the search, it's basically going to find every single imperative verb in the Hebrew Bible. So, and now they're all highlighted in red here. So every time a command is given in the Hebrew Bible. So now there's a lot here, right? 43,000. So let's click on that, and we'll go back to our analysis here again. And again, right here, it's ordered alphabetically, right? Starting with Aleph, but maybe we want to change this a little bit. Let's change this to countdown, because we want to see, okay, what are the most common commands in the Hebrew Bible? So we'll do that. And so interestingly here, it's halak, so to walk or to go is actually the most common. We have to hear, to see, to take, to return. So any of these are listed as, these are the most common commands, right? And you can kind of understand, right? Go there, go, do this, don't go there, don't, etc. So it's a very common one there. Now we can tweak this a little bit by the gear icon up here. So we'll go to Customize Display. And maybe we want to look at more than just the lexical forms. Maybe we want to be able to see the inflected forms, let's say. So we'll drag inflect here and drag it into our list here. So this is basically the list of all the different things we can add to our analysis to look at. And if we want to add it, we just click it and then drag it to the right there. So if I want to see inflected, I'll drag it to the right. If I want to see, well, what's the different, maybe the stems, Hebrew stems that are used. Maybe if you have the syntax installed, you could look at syntax as well. So all of those can be dragged from the left and then into the right there. And then let's do one more thing, our secondary sort. Again, let's change that from alphabetical to countdown instead. So that way we get the secondary list will be ordered by most common to least common. And again, if you ever want to just use this as your default, all you have to do is just click right here, use as default, and then every time you open it up, your analysis will show this information. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll save it as our default, click OK, and then now it organizes everything here. So we have, again, 254 here, and then it's going to list out each of those inflected forms here. And it gives me the call, the stem there. It tells me what the syntax is. It's the predicate. Of course, we're searching for a verb, so most of the time it's going to be predicate, but and I can see all those different forms here. Okay, and again, any of this here, if we can click back on the gear icon, go to Customize Display, any of this can be changed here. Now maybe we'll try something interesting. Maybe if we want to get rid of the lexical form, maybe we just want to see all the inflected forms and have it ordered by inflected. So I'll just click on Lex here, and I'm just gonna hit the backspace or erase key on your keyboard, and then now it got rid of the lexical form. So now if I click OK, now it's ordered just purely by inflected forms, right? So we have all those listed out here as well. Now any of these, of course, we could just like with the graphs, we can just click here, double click on any of the words, and then it's going to take me to where that's found here. So this is the word to go, right? It's not only is it the most common lexical form, but also this is the particular inflected form is also the most common in the Hebrew Bible. So lech here, to go. And obviously a lot of it's actually here in Genesis, as we can see. So okay, so that's for the some of there about the analysis. And let's talk about a few more things here. A few more different analytics and charts here. So I'm going to close these down, and we're going to go back to just searching with the English here. So let's say, one thing that a lot of people will ask me is, how come there's no concordance that you can purchase and add to your accordance? So, and the reason for that is because you can just make your own concordance very easily. So we don't have to actually purchase one. But a concordance, I'm not that old, 35, but but even when I first became a Christian, I remember using a paper concordance and looking through, finding the words and finding every time that particular word, where it's found and all the references. So concordances can be very helpful, right? But with accordance, you can actually just make your own very easily. So if I search for something like hope, and search for that word here, again, just throughout the entire English Bible here. And again, just like we've been doing, we'll click back on that pie chart icon here to the right. And we'll go down here to our concordance. And we'll look here. Now we can see, so the word hope, right? It gives us the number of times that it's found, but then it also lists out a Bible concordance for us. And any of these references here, when I hover over them, you notice it shows them in instant details down here. And of course, any of these I can click on as well, and then it will open up the entire verse for me. And so it's interesting looking at this even. Hope is used quite a bit in Job, which is something I never thought about, hope as a theme in Job. But so we have that. Now let's say we want to customize a little bit. Yours may not look exactly like mine. So let's go to this gear icon here. And we'll customize this a bit. So the range, right now we're searching the entire Bible, entire text. So, but if you're only searching a range, then you could tweak that a little bit. The font size, you can change that to look bigger or smaller. The type of font as well you're using, you can change that. The excerpt length here. So maybe you only want to see, very little of the verse, just the word and just then maybe that's about it. Or maybe you want to see almost the entire verse that word is found. You can choose that too. So you can change that according to how you want. Now the display thresholds, this is something important here. If when you did your concordance and you looked at it, you may have seen, if there's a lot of hits for a word, you may have not seen the entire excerpt. And so this is where you set that. So what I'll do is so let me show you an example. So if I set this low, like something like 50, let's say, and then we hit OK. Now you notice that it's basically just giving me the references, right? And you may have seen this when you did your search there. But you notice this one, there's only 4 hits, and so I can see the excerpts, right? This one, I don't see the excerpts anymore. So, but for me, I usually always want to see the excerpts. Maybe if I would just wanted a list of the words, I could use that and, of course, copy and paste it or print it and hand it out to people. But usually I want to see the excerpt. So I'll set this text excerpt to pretty high. So maybe something like 1,000 or something. So that way, even if I search for a word that's found many times in the Bible, I'm always going to see all the context of that particular word and where it's found in the verse. So we have that here. Filters as well, you can set some of those. Ignore words in brackets as well. Usually that would be more for doing Greek or Hebrew searching. Display options here. So if you want your search your word search that you did, the hit, if you want that to be highlighted, you can do that. Or you can only show the first letter of the hit word. And then you can also just, show the key numbers if you want to. So again, all this is very customizable, however you want your concordance to look. So, and then we'll click OK, and then now we have my excerpts back again. Now, if we do it in a search range, let's say if we were looking for hope, and maybe we're just looking in Paul's writings again, like we first did. If I do that and then search for hope. Now, this is something, again, sometimes people get confused on. If they set a range and they search for hope, then they think, well, why am I seeing hope in Ruth and Ezra and Job? I just wanted to see, I just wanted to see where hope is used in Paul, not, throughout the entire Bible. So again, click on that gear icon here, and then change it from entire text to search range only. And then that will get you just where hope is found in Paul's writings here. And again, if you want to set that as your default, just go back over here to your customize your concordance, and then choose search range only, and then use as default. And that way, every time you search within a range and then go to your concordance, it will open with just that search range. Okay, so I do want to leave some time for questions at the end. So let's keep on going here. We just have a few more things to talk about. So our table and table charts, this is the last thing in the list here. These two listed down here. So let's look for something. We'll go back to our grace search again. So we'll search for grace here. And I'm going to actually, we'll do this. Let me turn off the range. And we'll just search for it again across the entire Bible here. Okay, so the table is a little bit different. Again, each of these gives you a little bit different of a nuance, right, for analyzing your search results. And so they're all helpful, each in their own individual way. So if I go to something like just look at our table here first, and we did a search for the word grace. So it's going to give me the total hits here for that word. And then it's also going to give me the frequency, or the hits per 1,000 words. And again, this, maybe we want to tweak this a little bit. It's not quite helpful, maybe what we're looking for. So what we could do is click on that gear icon here, and then maybe instead of it being organized by reference, Genesis to Revelation, maybe we want to organize it by total hits. So we'll see, okay, what book has the word grace the most often? Well, we can see out Romans. Maybe you probably would have guessed that, right? So Romans is 21 times, 2 Corinthians 14 times, Ephesians 12 times. And then interestingly, Acts is 11 times, which is interesting. We may not have thought of that immediately with the word grace. But, and then we can change it as well. If we want to go to average hits, and see, now it's organized by hits per 1,000 words here. Let me make this larger. So now if Philemon is actually the most, because it's a small book, right? The hits, average is actually the highest in Philemon here. We can always go back down here, customize display, and set this exactly how we want it. So maybe every time we go to the table, it's always going to organize by total hits, let's say. And maybe every time we open it, we also want to see the chapter detail. So maybe we'll check that there. And then we'll click use as default here. Yep, click on save, and then okay. And then now, since we chose to see the chapter detail, now we actually see, okay, which chapters is the word grace found the most in? And it's actually Romans chapter 5 is found, right, 6 times. 2 Corinthians chapter 8 it's found 5 times, which this one's kind of interesting. If you remember 2 Corinthians 8, that's actually Paul's talking about the gift that the Corinthian church was collecting a gift to give to the Jerusalem church, right? That was poor and needy, especially because of famine. And so Paul was asking the Corinthian church to give a gift to the Jerusalem church. And so you can kind of see, if you look at that passage, how grace and gift are kind of connected in Paul's thought there. Okay, now there's also here the table chart too. If we want to look at, again, it will show us the same information, but just a little bit differently. So we'll go here and look at the table chart here, and it gives us, again, 21 times grace is found in Romans, and then 14 in 2 Corinthians, and so on. But we can always go back here and look at that chapter detail again, and look at this a bit differently here. So this kind of gives you, it's the same information as the table there, but it gives it to you a little more of an interesting way, right? And then this, of course, you can always copy that picture and then paste it as well if you want to. So the table, the unique thing about the table and the table chart is that you do get the chapter detail that you don't get in the other graphs or the other charts. So that's there. Okay, so there's just 2 more things on the outline here, and then we'll do some questions. So one thing that's very helpful for searching across the Old and New Testament, in especially when you're looking at particular words, so is our Greek Bible. So let me open that up here. So we go to my Greek text, and then we have here the Greek Bible. And so our Greek Bible, what it does is it actually combines the Septuagint Old Testament along with the Greek New Testament. And that's the Sweet edition of the Septuagint and the Westcott and Hort edition of the Greek New Testament. But the cool thing about this is it allows you to search for a word, and it allows you to search for that same word all the way across the Bible, and it's a great way to look at the analytics as well. And oftentimes, Septuagint, is very important for biblical studies. You probably may be familiar with that before. I think we've done webinars and sessions on the Septuagint and why it's important. And oftentimes the New Testament writers, they often quoted from the Septuagint, right? More often than they quoted from the Hebrew Bible. So just because, well, for one reason, because the Greek was the common language of the day, right, that everybody knew or read from. So maybe if you want to do something like, do a word search here, and we want to study something like, maybe we talked about earlier, we did a search on justify in Paul. Well, where does, how is that idea of justify or righteousness in Paul, how is that used maybe throughout the entire Bible, even in the Old Testament? And how was it, how is it used in the Septuagint, the Old Testament that Paul would have read, right? Maybe if we do something like, if we jump down here, let me just go down to Genesis 15 here, right? Let me open up the English here in parallel. So if we go to something like Genesis 15:6 here, right? Very famous verse, right? Abraham believed God, believed the Lord, and he counted him as righteousness. So dikaiosune here, right? So that's the idea behind righteousness or justice, justification, justify. So what we could do is something like this. We could just right-click on it, and maybe we'll look for the root term here. So we'll search for the root. That way we get any kind of connected, right? Any kind of connected words to this idea of righteousness or justice or justify. And so once we do that search, so you notice the search for the root, decay here. And now we get from Genesis to Revelation every time this type of language is used. So here it's found 2,000 times, right, throughout the Bible. And so we can click on, again, we could look at many of these different things that we've looked at before. But if we want to look at the analysis, let's say, and we could go down here to count down, and we could see, okay, so dikaios here is used 500 times, right, righteous, dikaiosune, righteousness, justice, maybe unrighteousness, right, here as well. And then we could even look at a few more of these. So maybe we want to look at something like the analysis graph here and find, okay, what are the different forms and where are they found throughout the Bible? And interestingly here, if we make this a little bigger, you can see right here in red that dikaios or righteous is actually used in Proverbs quite a bit. So we could kind of look and see, okay, well, what is the idea of righteousness or justice or justification? How is that used in Proverbs? And look at that there. So the cool thing about having a module like this, the Greek Bible here, you can kind of, again, search for words and do word studies across the entire Bible, Old and New Testament, see how it's used in the Septuagint, see how that's used in the New Testament, and do a comparison that way. We can even look at like our table here again, go to there and look and see, and look at the chapter detail and see, okay, what chapters actually use, the word righteousness the most. And actually, it's interesting, you look at here, it's actually Psalms 118 it's used 53 times. So a lot of interesting things you can find there. Okay, and then just one last thing I mentioned at the beginning, I'm going to close these down. The show default analytics here, it's at the top, but we're talking about it last year. This is basically where you can set what you want as your default analytics. So every time you do a search, search for a word and you want to go to your analytics, these different options that we've gone through, which one do you want to be, your default one that you always go to? Maybe you always want to look at the analysis first, or maybe you want to look at the analysis and the hits graph, both of those together. And so the show default analytics will allow you to set that. So to do that, go to your preferences. So on a Mac, the preferences are found in the accordance menu. On a PC, they're found in the edit menu. So right here, preferences. Again, the accordance menu on a Mac, and then the edit menu on a PC. So with all your list of preferences here, you're going to want to go to one right here called Search Tabs. So Search Tabs right here. And this is where you can set your default analytics. So let's say every time I do a search, I want to see that hits graph, see where it's found, but maybe I also want to look at my analysis, and maybe I also want to see a concordance too, maybe, let's say. So I'm just going to check those three options as these are going to be my default analytics that I use. So once I have those set there, I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And then now we'll go back and we'll choose the Show Default Analytics here. And then now you notice that each of those three open now. So I have my concordance here, I have my analysis here, and then I also have my hits graph here as well. So that way all three of them are opening at the same time. So maybe if these are the three that you want to use every time you're doing your study, then just set those in your preferences, and you'll have those all set up whenever you click on the Show Default Analytics. Okay, so I think that's everything in the outline there. I hope it was helpful for you, maybe as an introduction to the analytics and graphs, but also just as diving into how you can customize those and change those, and then hopefully also you saw somewhat how helpful they can be for Bible study and for word studies and all those things. So yeah, thank you very much. I guess I'll hand it over to Linda perhaps, or whoever wants to talk more about the different special sales that we have for the eAcademy, and also open it for other questions as well.
I think the special sales are in the chat box, the discount codes, so anyone can go there and get those out. And for those of you who didn't get the handout, it's in the handout section in the Go to Webinar control panel. If you'll just look for handouts, click on the arrow so that it's pointing down, you should be able to click on that. Mark, were there any questions that you wanted to bring up?
I think I answered a lot of these questions, but if there's not, I may have not answered something fully enough, or you may want to see Ryan do something visually for you. In either of those cases, make sure you let us know now, and we've got some time for that. Looks like Dorian is asking, is it possible to search for the most used root words in a particular book?
Yeah, thank you, Dorian, for that question. What we could do is, I guess there's a couple different ways to go about it, but maybe what we'll start is, maybe we'll go back to our Greek search here and do it that way. So let me go here, I'll open up my Greek Bible again here, and we'll just do the same search that we did. Probably easiest to follow along with that. So if we search for a root word like this, well, I guess you're wanting more for, not just a particular root word, but just any root word in a particular book. So what we'll do is we'll set a range here. And let's say we'll go to the New Testament here. And we'll look at something like John here. Okay, so we have our range as John. So we're just searching this particular book. And what I'll do is, we'll just go and go up to our search here. And I guess, Dorian, are you looking for any particular like noun or verb root, or just any type of root at all? I guess would be my follow-up question to that.
She said frequency of repetition. I guess frequency or repetition, a word that would be used multiple times, the most used root word in a particular book.
Okay. Yeah, so what we could do is, let's try, we'll just do an example here. Dorian, let me know if this is not exactly what you're looking for. Let's see, we'll look for every type of noun. In John here. Now there's different ways to go to, we can go to analysis here. And we can look and count down to see what are the most common words that way. But also, of course, we have our hits graph will also show it frequency as well. So our analysis here. And we can look at the different lexical forms this way as well. And this shows frequency here rather than sheer numbers. So that's one way there. So frequency versus just sheer numbers, the analysis will show you the sheer numbers here, and then the analysis graph will show you the frequency there.
Ryan, would the count command be helpful at all for what they want to do there?
We could also use the count command as well. So what we could do is something like, well, let me go up to the search up here. Go to search, and we'll go to our enter command here and go to the count command. Do it this way. Now the count command will kind of give you, you can put in exactly, like let's say, you can put in exact counts for exact, Greek words or Hebrew words or English that are found exact number of times, or you can do just a general number as well. So if I want to find all the words that are found 100 plus times, maybe in the book of John or something like that, I could do that. And of course, this is kind of, we're seeing mainly the just the different prepositions here, right, or the definite article there. But we can look at in our analysis as well and see what are the most common this way too. So, yeah, thank you, Linda, for that suggestion too.
And Ryan, there's another question: how to search for a phrase, 2 or more words.
Yeah. Let me see here the question. I don't see that question in the box. I mean, I missed it.
It was emailed to me. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I guess a question, or to search for a phrase like in English then. So I mean, we could do something like son of man, let's say, and search for a phrase that way, and then find that, and then we'll see that, of course, across our. We can go here to our hits graph here and see where that is used here. And close these down. And see where Son of Man is used throughout the Bible here. So we can see, obviously, it's used a lot in Ezekiel there, but then also in the New Testament as well, Matthew and Luke as well. So maybe, hopefully that answers the question there that Linda, that user had, though. Let me know if not. Let me see, there's a few other questions here. So Craig's asking, is the Greek Bible a separate module or a combined text? So it is a separate module that you can purchase and add on to your accordance. So I find it very helpful, like I said, to be able to go back and forth across Old and New Testament there. Okay, other questions?
excuse me, there is a question about doing a phrase search in Greek, which would be the same as doing it in English, except you would have to put quotes around it, right?
Yeah. So if we want to, well, we could just do an example here. We'll just we'll just copy that and put it in here. And then, as Mark said, we'll just put the parentheses around it, and then you can search for a phrase that way too. So Bert's asking also, can I use noun or like use the noun command, verb command, or to get frequency count for all words in a book? Yeah, you don't really need to do that, Bert. You could just use the count command that way, and count command will actually do all the words anyways. So if I just do the count command, well, even if I just do something, if we just do 1 to or 1 plus actually, then that will actually even easier than the count command is just use the asterisk actually. And that will search for all the words, and then I can go to my analysis and look at all the list of all the words there.